For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On an evening in 1994, 27-year-old Daniela Sosa, a talented pastry chef, and her partner left their cozy motel in St. Augustine Beach, Florida, for a romantic sunset stroll along the tide line. They never returned. Despite an extensive, desperate investigation that scoured miles of coastline and ocean, Daniela and her partner vanished without a trace into the vast, unforgiving Atlantic. For 18 long, agonizing years, their families lived with crushing uncertainty, clinging to fragmented hope while dread settled deep. Then, in 2012, amidst the aftermath of a powerful storm, a shocking discovery was made beneath an old, weathered Lifeguard platform. 2 sand-scoured rings, a silent testament to a forgotten tragedy. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Daniela Sosa and her partner. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. St. Augustine Beach, Florida in the summer of 1994 was a place of serene beauty, its expansive shores kissed by the Atlantic. White sand stretched for miles, meeting the gentle, rhythmic ebb and flow of the ocean. It was a destination promising relaxation, a postcard of idyllic coastal living. Yet beneath its tranquil surface lay the immense, untamed power of the sea, a force capable of erasing traces, of swallowing secrets whole. It was into this deceptive tranquility that Daniela Sosa, a 27-year-old pastry chef with a quiet passion for life, and her partner, a man whose presence complemented her own, stepped on an unremarkable evening. Their day had been one of simple pleasures. After an early dinner, as the sun began its slow descent towards the western horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, the couple decided on a leisurely stroll. Their chosen path led them south of the iconic St. Augustine Pier, along the tide line where the retreating waves left the sand cool and firm beneath their feet. It was a common ritual for many vacationers, a peaceful winding down before the night truly settled. They walked, perhaps hand in hand, the ocean breeze carrying the scent of salt and freedom. They were seen, a fleeting glimpse of 2 figures against the vast backdrop of the ocean, their silhouettes gradually fading into the deepening twilight. But as the night progressed, a subtle disquiet began to stir. The next morning, the usual hum of motel activity at the Sand Dollar Inn was punctuated by a growing absence. Ron Patel, the diligent motel clerk, noted with a mild furrow of his brow that room 3B remained undisturbed. The Do Not Disturb sign hung on the door, but the allocated checkout time had long passed. A polite knock yielded no response. What began as a minor administrative concern soon morphed into something more unsettling. The couple's car remained in the parking lot, untouched. Their belongings were still in the room, seemingly awaiting their return. Hours bled into the afternoon, and the initial spark of concern in Ron Patel intensified into a cold dread. The couple had simply vanished. Their leisurely walk along the tide line had been their last known activity, their final appearance in the public eye. There was no note, no explanation, no sign of struggle. They had walked out into the dusk and the vastness of St. Augustine Beach, the immense, indifferent Atlantic, had absorbed them without a trace. The realization dawned slowly, chillingly. Daniela Sosa and her partner were truly gone, swallowed by an inexplicable silence that would echo for nearly 2 decades. The growing alarm at the Sand Dollar Inn quickly escalated beyond the scope of a missing persons report. Ron Patel's increasingly frantic calls brought St. Augustine Beach law enforcement to the scene. Uniformed officers and detectives, initially hopeful, soon faced the stark reality of the situation. An immediate, extensive search was launched, focusing on the stretch of beach south of the pier, the last known location of Daniela Sosa and her partner. Search teams fanned out along the shoreline, their eyes meticulously scanning the sand, the dunes, and the churning surf. Boats from the Coast Guard and local Marine Patrol units began systematic grid searches of the coastal waters, battling the inherent challenges of a vast, dynamic environment where currents could carry anything, or anyone, far offshore in a matter of hours. Investigators meticulously processed the couple's motel room. There were no signs of forced entry, no indication of struggle, nothing to suggest a violent abduction had taken place within its walls. Their personal effects, clothing, toiletries, even some cash, remained untouched, reinforcing the unsettling notion that they had simply walked away, intending to return. On the beach itself, the tide line, a transient canvas, offered no discernible clues. The relentless ebb and flow of the ocean, a powerful and impartial force, had already erased any footprints, any dropped item, any potential disturbance that might have marked their final moments. The scene was pristine, yet utterly devoid of answers. Ron Patel, the motel clerk, provided his account, detailing the couple's quiet demeanor, their dinner plans, and their stated intention for an evening stroll. He recalled their last known activities, their expected return, and the subsequent dawning realization of their absence. Every other guest at the Sand Dollar Inn was interviewed, alongside anyone who remembered seeing a couple matching Daniela and her partner's description on the beach that evening. Lifeguards, local shop owners, and even other beachgoers were canvassed. Yet, despite these exhaustive efforts, no new information emerged. No one had witnessed anything unusual. No one recalled a struggle or a cry for help. As the hours stretched into days, the initial urgency of the search slowly gave way to a profound frustration. Despite the tireless dedication of law enforcement and volunteers, the investigation yielded no physical evidence, no credible witnesses, and no concrete leads. The vastness of the Atlantic Ocean, with its powerful currents and its ability to swallow secrets whole, proved to be an insurmountable adversary. The pristine, beautiful beach had become a symbol of an unsolved mystery, transforming what began as a routine missing persons case into a baffling and deeply unsettling enigma that seemed destined to defy all efforts at resolution. The initial whirlwind of activity surrounding Daniela Sosa and her partner's disappearance gradually subsided. The fervent searches, which had consumed days and nights, tapered off. The intensive interviews gave way to follow-up calls that yielded no new information. What began as an urgent, active investigation slowly, inexorably, began to wind down. Weeks bled into months, each passing day eroding the hope of a swift resolution. The vastness of the Atlantic, once a symbol of beauty, became a cold, indifferent accomplice to the mystery, offering no bodies, no debris, no definitive answers. Every avenue explored by investigators led to a dead end. The motel room offered no clues beyond the unsettling absence. The beach, scoured repeatedly, revealed nothing. The ocean, despite extensive aerial and marine surveys, held its secrets tight. Without a crime scene, without witnesses to an incident, and without any physical trace of the couple, the case lacked the fundamental anchors needed for progression. There were no suspects, no ransom demands, no signs of a struggle. They had simply ceased to be, leaving behind only the profound void of their absence. As the months stretched into a year, then two, the official designation for Daniela Sosa and her partner's vanishing shifted. The case was formally categorized as a cold case. The voluminous files, once actively consulted, were meticulously organized and placed into storage, joining countless others in the archives of unsolved mysteries. Active patrols along the beach, once a daily routine in the immediate aftermath, ceased their specific search for the couple. The resources previously dedicated to their disappearance were reallocated to new, pressing concerns. The official chapter of their active search concluded, but the human chapter of their story remained agonizingly open. Yet, even as the official investigation receded, the mystery itself lingered, a heavy, unspoken presence over St. Augustine Beach. For Ron Patel, the motel clerk, And for anyone who had heard the story, the quiet, unsettling question of what had truly happened to Daniela Sosa and her partner persisted. It was a stark, chilling reminder of how quickly life could unravel, how completely individuals could vanish without a trace. The initial shock gave way to a deepening sense of hopelessness for resolution. The vast ocean continued its ceaseless rhythm, and with each passing tide, the possibility of ever understanding their fate seemed to recede further, leaving behind only the echoes of an unexplained vanishing. 18 years had passed since Daniela Sosa and her partner vanished into the St. Augustine twilight. Nearly 2 decades of silence, of unsolved questions, had allowed the initial shock to calcify into a grim acceptance, a cold case file gathering dust in an archive. The beach continued its timeless rhythm, its sands shifting, its tides erasing and reshaping the shoreline, seemingly holding its secrets inviolate. But nature, in its relentless cycle of creation and destruction, sometimes chooses to reveal what it has long concealed. In the autumn of that 18th year, a powerful tropical storm swept across the Florida coast. It was not a hurricane, but its sustained winds and torrential rains lashed St. Augustine Beach for days, carving new contours into the dunes, eroding vast stretches of sand, and dislodging debris that had lain buried for years. Once the tempest finally abated, leaving behind a scarred but resilient landscape, the massive task of cleanup began. Leading the beach maintenance crews was Trudy Ames, a woman whose years of experience had taught her the unpredictable nature of the coastal environment. Her teams worked methodically, clearing fallen trees, sifting through mounds of seaweed, and restoring public access points. It was during this laborious post-storm effort, specifically beneath the weathered pilings of an old Lifeguard platform, that a significant discovery was made. This particular platform, long considered defunct and partially buried by shifting sands, had stood as an almost unnoticed relic of earlier beach management. Its foundations, typically obscured, were now exposed by the storm's powerful scour. As one of Trudy's crew members cleared accumulated sand and detritus from beneath the platform's wooden supports, his shovel struck something hard. He paused, knelt, and carefully brushed away the sand, revealing 2 small metallic objects. They were rings, clearly old, their surfaces scoured smooth by years of abrasive sand and salt water. Their discovery in such an unusual, long inaccessible spot immediately raised questions. These were not modern trinkets, nor did they appear to be recently lost. Trudy Ames, alerted to the find, recognized their potential significance and promptly contacted local authorities. The rings, carefully retrieved and transported for examination, underwent forensic analysis. The results were electrifying. Through meticulous identification processes, the sand-worn bands were confirmed to belong to Daniela Sosa and her partner. After nearly 2 decades, the cold case of their inexplicable vanishing was dramatically reawakened. The 2 small, unassuming rings, unearthed by the raw power of a storm, represented the first tangible clue, a glimmer of hope piercing through the long night of an unsolved mystery. The confirmation that the sand-scoured rings belonged to Daniela Sosa and her partner shattered the long-standing silence that had enveloped their disappearance for 18 years. The cold case, once a dormant file in an archive, was immediately reopened, infused with a renewed urgency and a fragile yet potent sense of hope. Original case files, yellowed with time, were pulled from storage, their contents re-examined through the lens of this astonishing new discovery. Every detail, every witness statement, every dead end from 1994 now held the potential for reinterpretation. Investigators meticulously analyzed the rings themselves. Beyond their identification, forensic experts sought any further clues embedded within their worn surfaces. The critical detail, however, remained their improbable resting place, beneath the old, previously overlooked Lifeguard platform. This was no random beach find. its location suggested a specific, localized event. How had two rings belonging to a couple last seen walking the tide line come to be buried and preserved for nearly 2 decades in such an obscure spot, only to be unearthed by a storm? To unravel this complex question, the investigative team brought in Professor Marin Gutierrez, a renowned tide analyst. Her expertise was crucial in understanding the dynamic, ever-changing environment of St. Augustine Beach over nearly 2 decades. Professor Gutierrez's task was to model the intricate dance of sand accretion and erosion, the powerful influence of currents, and the long-term structural changes to the beach itself. She studied historical weather patterns, tidal charts, and geological surveys, attempting to reconstruct the conditions that could have led to the rings' burial beneath the platform's pilings and their eventual re-exposure. Her analysis would determine if natural forces alone could explain the rings' journey and preservation. The investigative team meticulously re-evaluated the original disappearance, now armed with this unprecedented physical evidence. The focus shifted dramatically from a generic, lost-at-sea theory to a more localized incident near the pier and the old Lifeguard platform. They considered how the couple might have ended up in that specific area, and what events, natural or otherwise, could have led to the rings being lost there. Could the platform have been a point of shelter, a point of entry or exit, or simply an unfortunate landmark in a tragic sequence of events? The aim was to move beyond simple assumptions and to build a robust hypothesis that accounted for the ring's precise location, transforming the mystery from an open-ended vanishing into a focused inquiry into the forces that had brought them to their hidden resting place. Further forensic analysis of the rings yielded an unexpected and crucial detail. Embedded in one of the sand-scoured bands, almost imperceptible to the naked eye, was a minute trace of tar. This was not generic residue. Specialized chemical profiling identified it as a specific type of bituminous material, consistent with industrial dredging operations. The discovery was a revelation, providing the first concrete, temporal link to the couple's disappearance. Investigators, working with experts, meticulously cross-referenced this unique tar signature with historical records, confirming a significant dredge event had been underway in the St. Augustine area during the precise time frame of Daniela Sosa and her partner's vanishing in 1994. This new, specific timeline became a critical pivot point for the investigation. It prompted a comprehensive review of all historical records pertaining to the St. Augustine Pier and its immediate surroundings from that period. A critical gap in surveillance quickly emerged. During the exact window of the dredge event and the couple's disappearance, several cameras positioned on the pier were either non-operational, under maintenance, or had not yet been installed, creating a significant and previously unconsidered blind spot in an otherwise well-monitored area. The absence of footage, once merely an inconvenience, now loomed as a red flag, potentially concealing crucial moments. The confluence of these disparate facts, the dredge timeline, the confirmed presence of specific tar on a ring, the missing pier camera footage, and the couple's last known walk south of the pier, finally illuminated a previously overlooked detail. A service gate. Located just south of the pier, this gate offered a less visible access point, often used as a late-night shortcut by locals or by personnel connected to beach maintenance or specific projects. Under normal circumstances, it might have been dismissed as insignificant. However, plotted against the active dredge operations, the tar residue, and the critical surveillance void, this unassuming service gate transformed into the linchpin of the entire mystery. It was no longer just a gate. It was a potential point of entry into a series of events that would finally explain the enigma of Daniela Sosa and her partner's vanishing. The pieces of the puzzle, scattered for 18 years across the vast expanse of St. Augustine Beach, finally began to interlock with chilling precision. The sand-scoured rings, unearthed from beneath the old Lifeguard platform, provided the initial physical evidence, anchoring the couple's last known location to a specific point. The minute trace of specialized tar on one band, forensically linked to a specific dredge event that had been underway in 1994, established a critical, previously unknown timeline for their disappearance. This timeline, combined with the discovery of non-operational pier cameras during the exact same period, revealed a crucial blind spot in surveillance. And finally, the often overlooked service gate, located just south of the pier, emerged as the probable point of entry into this unseen confluence of events, a shortcut that became a tragic conduit. With these disparate elements now aligned, a tragic yet coherent narrative began to unfold. Daniela Sosa and her partner, enjoying their evening stroll along the tide line, likely sought a quicker path back to their motel or simply ventured into an area they believed was accessible. The service gate, a known shortcut used by locals and personnel, would have offered such passage, especially as dusk deepened into night. Unbeknownst to them, this route led directly into the periphery of active dredge operations, or an area recently disturbed by them. The presence of the specific tar on Daniela's ring served as a stark, silent witness to this proximity, indicating direct contact with the industrial residue or perhaps even the machinery itself. Their disappearance was no longer an inexplicable vanishing into the vast, indifferent ocean. Instead, it coalesced into a tragic accident, a confluence of poor timing, an unmonitored access point, and the inherent dangers of industrial activity near a public beach. Whether they fell into an unseen trench created by the dredge, were caught by an unexpected current altered by the operations, or encountered an unforeseen hazard in the low light, their ultimate fate was now understood. The ocean did not simply swallow them without reason. Their path had intersected with a specific, localized event that proved fatal, erasing them from the visible world but leaving behind a single, profound clue. For Ron Patel, the diligent motel clerk who had first raised the alarm, and for the families who had endured nearly 2 decades of agonizing uncertainty, this resolution, though somber, brought a profound sense of closure. The dedication of investigators, who never truly abandoned the cold case, was underscored by the serendipitous intervention of the Storm and Trudy Ames's diligent cleanup efforts. It was a testament to the fact that even the most enduring mysteries can yield to persistent inquiry and the unexpected hand of fate. The 2 sand-scoured rings, small and unassuming, had traveled an extraordinary journey through time and sand. They served as a powerful reminder that no cold case is ever truly beyond the reach of resolution, and that sometimes the smallest, most weathered clue holds the key to unlocking decades of unanswered questions, finally bringing an end to an 18-year silence on St. Augustine Beach.